Sinn Féin is a United Ireland party. We stand for independence, for sovereignty, for citizenship, and these conferences are part of a strategy to both achieve our goal, which isn't a monopoly of Sinn Féin's, of uniting the people of this island, but also to talk and to be part of a conversation about what type of United Ireland we want and how we would get it. Ireland has a population which is half the size of the population of New York. Yet we've two of everything. We've two states, two governments, two public and private services, two sets of currencies, two tax systems, two sets of laws, two sets of regulations. As a result, no part of this island has been immune from the effects of partition. So there are lots of joined up things which can be done to promote very practical measures to both improve the quality of life for our people and to build our economy. And there are many, particularly and especially within unionism, who accept and recognise the potential of an all-island economy, of our interests being better served in health, the environment, education, agriculture, transport, jobs creation, taxation and strategic investment if they're all planned together. So uniting Ireland makes economic sense, it makes political sense, and it makes common sense. The most significant development in this in recent times was the Good Friday Agreement. And in those negotiations, Sinn Féin succeeded in getting the British government to scrap the Government of Ireland Act. That's the act by which the British claimed jurisdiction over this entire island before partition and over the 6 counties since partition. And getting them to get rid of it was a very, very significant development. There's now equivalence between those who want the Union and those who want a united Ireland. And I was at Stormont 2 weeks ago when this was underlined by David Cameron, the British Prime Minister. He said that while his preference was for the Union and for people to remain part of the United Kingdom, it's up to the people. And the British government has to back the will of the people, whether it's for the continuation of the Union or as part of a united Ireland. It's a great delight to have so many people here, particularly there are so many other things happening in the city this evening. I hope we have a very, very good discussion, but I hope the discussion doesn't end here, that it becomes a process. As we think about where we are and the mess that we're in, can part of the process of rectifying that create a new republic, a genuine republic in which all the citizens of this island will be cherished equally. Gora mila 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 mágah.
When the Queen and Barack Obama dropped in, when purple petunias appeared in plastic pots, our Taoiseach started a new trend. Quoting phrases from American presidents in speeches is all the rage this summer, and I feel compelled to do likewise. I wanted to cite George W. Bush, but the only intelligent phrase I found was, "German asparagus are fabulous." As this is hardly relevant, I shall use the words of Bill Clinton instead. He has referred to the Good Friday Agreement as, quote, "the best political achievement of my lifetime," unquote. Whether people agree with the idea of a united Ireland or not, it is virtually impossible for anyone to disagree with the sentiments of that quotation. Finally, in the new republic, when Rory Deasy's tractor is parked in a field in Tipperary, and when Micheál Hurtig's sporting eye leads him to study the form of the fillies, and when I sit opposite Jerry Adams in the casino, which may be built close to the road, I wonder which currency will we use? When we emerge bleary-eyed at 6 a.m, will we opt for the Ulster fry or the full Irish? I don't know if this island is ready for the final unification. It may not be time to elect the next High King of Ireland just yet, but anything which can reverse this deplorable mess, anything which can improve the job prospects of the unemployed, anything which can stop the demise of the public service has to be considered. Gurv Magwith.
And I go with those who see Republican freedom as non-domination. The Republican free man or woman looks everyone in the face. They stand tall and straight, not dominated by the arbitrary control or bullying of others. Republican governments protect the freedom of citizens by protecting them from the domination by other individuals or by groups. The Republican government is also vigilant to ensure it's not itself the source of domination for its own citizens. I'll finish by quoting Walter Feinberg, who spoke last week in Tralee, where the VEC sector was dealing with the issues of religious diversity in public managed schools. And he said, "The skills required to live in a democracy are multifaceted. The dispositions deep and the attitudes complex. Having taken centuries of political struggle, philosophical debate and popular upheaval to shape, they are still subject to revision. They are satisfied not just when people vote. They are expressed in the ways citizens treat one another at home, at work, and on the street. They are embodied in the willingness to share power, to examine evidence, and to take up the standpoint of the other, believers and non-believers alike, to evaluate policy from the point of view of fairness. They are reflected in people's willingness to take responsibility and to hold themselves and their representatives accountable. They are also represented in the attitudes towards people of different races, religions, genders, and sexual orientations. There may be 100% turnout in elections, but if these requirements are not present, neither is democracy. And as I said, such things cannot be learned in schools that separate. They are learned in common schools." Good morning.
I taught in first level and second level. And the one thing I noticed, I had children who came from homes where there was very little. Some of them were excellent. And I attributed it all to the attitude of their parents towards education. Their parents were encouraging them. But unfortunately, not all parents do that. They don't realize the value of it. So some children remain, generation after generation, of families
1 minute,
deprived.
please, Mihal.
The one thing I say, part of what's necessary is that some government departments sometime will take not the generation of school-going age, but their parents as well, and break the trend. It's by education that day will come. Tá is a gon go ducig sé, áthas ar an go bhór me cuire teachtain seo hanóg, chríoch me le písa beag gailge eile, go meramid go léir beor an am seo ríis. On this day next year, may we all be alive and well. Go ramíle maithagad.
And I'm one who does not believe in the diktat from Europe. I'm one who saw civil servants going over to Brussels in the early years and drinking themselves silly because there was no closing time. And so at closing time, they'd order 2 or 3 more pints and they had them lined up. And then, sure, they got more. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning before they were going home to the hotel. And they were back up next morning. And they were asleep on the watch. In organisations like my own that I used to represent in IFA and everything, there was many, many people who were asleep on the watch. There was no regulation. And if we are going to create a new republic, we must put a lot of thought into it. And it must benefit everybody. Farmer, processor, consumer. Because we're all being ripped off. And there is a better future. And that has to be articulated by everybody. And it's incumbent on everyone here in this audience and everyone around at home that you think about what our future is and that we put our heads together and come up with a strategy and a structure that will benefit us all.
Partition is in a large way responsible for the predicament in which we find ourselves. Now that's a very large statement, is obviously subject to numerous levels of qualification, but let's put it this way. For nearly 100 years, for nearly a century, our life and social progress as a nation, as an historic country, has been impeded by a border. And the border is not literally a physical thing or a mental thing. It is an actual sovereign reality which prevents the people of this island determining their own destiny. Now, that is a major problem when you find yourselves in the midst of an international crisis, because it is physically impossible, it is legally irreconcilable for all of us to collectively determine our destiny now. There has to be at least two sovereign governments and a powerful, important devolved assembly in the north involved in that, for Ireland to have a say in its own affairs. More than ever before, I think, Ireland requires a sovereign and authoritative national government, because we're all in trouble to varying degrees. And we need to harness resources this country, as many speakers have suggested, for national benefit. Our general situation, as has been alluded to, is by no means as bleak as some would claim. We have an educated English-speaking, which is advantageous, a social people, which is a fact, or at least other people think we are. We're located in a comparatively unpolluted and underpopulated island. We have much in our favour. We have vast territorial waters, as was mentioned. They are under-resourced in terms of actual investment. And I would certainly rather see large tranches of my debt and my children's debt invested in mariculture than sent to put a smile on the face of a Parisian banker. However, my last 2 sentences are this. It is clearly extremely important that those who are the custodians of our national assets are as vigilant as never before in ensuring they are not mortgaged against our futures and not expropriated by foreign opportunists. This is a very, very dangerous time for those who are looking hopefully to our equivalent of North Sea oil and other factors. Reunification, I think, personally, should feature centrally, at very least, in discussions of extricating Ireland from its historical, political, as well as current economic travails. Some of the solutions will fit both scenarios. Restoring Ireland to its normal 32-county format will never be convenient, it won't be straightforward, and it will not be inexpensive. It is nonetheless, I believe, essential, as inertia and denial threatens disastrous regression. Ireland will, I believe, take its place amongst the nations of the earth, and nothing less than national survival is at stake. Thank you very much.
You're a great audience. You've done a fantastic night's work here tonight. To Lucilita and everybody involved in the organisation of this, it's been tremendous, and it's been something that has been long overdue. We have to keep it up, and we have to ensure that we build those bridges, those divisions, an end of sectarianism and never a civil war state, bring about a united Ireland that will do justice to the memory and the legacy of those great men and women that give their lives, they give their liberty, and they give that inspiration down through the decades to bring about what they wanted to see happening. Go Margaret.